Hello, hello. Hey, Wandering Scorpio. How are you, my dear? I hope you um, are being wonderful. Wandering Scorpio, I don't know if you were in here. How are you? I tell, and when I talk to my in person friends, I had talked to you about what a strong mana character that you are, for sure. So, what are you up to this fine day? Building closets. Nice. Are you remodeling your home or just doing all the inserts, redoing the closets? I know it. Oh, moved out of storage. Got it. I get it. Yeah, sometimes you've got to do that kind of thing. A lot of times you don't have all the storage you need or have all of not a lot of organized space. I get that. So I I was living out of storage since the ice storm. Oh wow. Meaning you had a small home and had everything sitting in storage. I think that's what I understand. Yeah. But you weren't living in the storage container or storage garage. I'm not sure what to call them. I call them storage. Just storage. So that's nice that you're getting everything out. Very nice. I'm just going to wait until a few more people come on in. Um, hey, Queen, my dear. How are you? Oh, that I got it now, right? So then you had, but now wondering, you now are retired from doing the over the road truck driving kind of thing and just settling in. Queen, how are you today? I'm so glad you're here. This should be fun. I don't know how fun it is. It's just very interesting that I can tell you based up of my story about growing up in an independent fundamental Baptist church and school. Um, and I think it's a little bit culty. And now, as I'm older, no, I'm 46 now. I just don't have obligations, kids, a wife, bills. Got it. You're really young. Oh my gosh. But I get it. And that's good. You don't have bills and obligations, but I do know that you see your children and it has to be difficult being alone. Uh, Queen, I am good. I really am. I've been thinking about telling this story. It's been a beautiful day here in Wisconsin. It's a little bit humid. It's kind of overcast. So I don't know if we're getting going to get some more rain today. But it's been in the upper 70s, low 80s. So that's a good thing. Wandering Scorpio, my kids pay their own bills. That's a good thing that they're working, they're on their own. I get that. And it costs less for you when it comes to food and feeding them and all of that kind of stuff. I get it. It costs a lot to raise a kid. Even when they're in adulthood, it costs. No, definitely. So I think I will get started, but I want to make this very clear. I had an amazing childhood. I have amazing parents and amazing friends. And with that, it's kind of, I grew up in an independent fundamental Baptist church and school. And a little bit how that story starts was when my mom was raised American Baptist growing up, and she, if this is just my own interpretation, okay, to me it was a lot like being Lutheran. Hey, just keep it real. So good to see you, my dear. And so to me, American Baptists, they were still Baptist, but they were, it was Lutheran ish. That's the way I see it when I look at it. And from coming out of a fundamental Baptist environment, it's totally different. It's completely different. So maybe independent and fundamental Baptist is kind of a break off, I want to say, out of the Southern Baptist Church. I don't know much about Southern Baptist churches, but independent fundamental Baptist churches that I'm aware of are very strict. There's very strict rules and guidelines. So as we were growing up little, me being little, but when my sister and I were little kids, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I went to kindergarten. I went to a public school, which I really don't remember too much. I remember some things, but then once my sister became a kindergartner, my mom went back to school and teaching. And it just so happened that the church that we went to had an elementary school from kindergarten or pre-kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. And it seemed pretty normal. I guess I didn't notice anything, but us girls had to wear dresses to school, and the boys, of course, had to wear, as a boy, had to wear a collared shirt. But we always wore dresses. And yeah, was there some creepy stuff that when I look back at it, that nothing is how do I say this, that anything was different? No, but I can remember we had Bible class every single day and in elementary school, and then we had what was called chapel, where it's like the whole school kind of gets together once a week, and then they preach the Bible of some chapel service. Sometimes they would have visiting evangelists come, or special speakers, which were pastors from maybe like a local church, or it was just the principal of the school doing his weekly sermon in the chapel environment. And thanks, guys, for being so supportive. Six watching. Oh, and six thumbs up. That is awesome. Thank you all so much. So, elementary school was really no big deal, but they always instilled in your brain that be careful. You can't be hanging out with sinners. But that also changes a little bit too, even though everybody is a sinner in my life. I'm Samantha. How are you, my dear? I'm with my neighbor. Aw, I hope your neighbor is better. That is so sweet that you've been spending a lot of time, and other two ladies who also live in the neighborhood. That's so sweet. You're such a good person. You really are. And you have a great heart. Wandering Scorpio. Personally, I'm not religious. I used to date a Southern Baptist in high school. Ooh, I wonder how that was. I don't know. Were you able to touch her or hold her hand or any of those things? But, oh, Samantha, she's not going to get better. Well, you know what? While she is here, you can be that ray of sunshine like you always are. But we'll keep her in our prayers, definitely. So, one of the things that I remember in the teachings was this. When I was in sixth grade, is when the movie, the girl who is The Exorcist. And of course, my parents, yes, we were holy rollers. Oh, yes, but not anymore. I'm just like you, just keep it real, more spiritual versus religious. We used to share the Bible with everybody, and nowadays, like, you would walk around the community knocking on people's doors as little kids, not similar to Jehovah's Witness in that regard, but that's what was expected of you. But don't hang out with them. Don't be friends with them because they are sinners. Just remember that. But after I had seen that movie, The Exorcist, we were learning in sixth grade Bible class about catechism, and which is the 10 Commandments on steroids. And literally in sixth grade, we had to learn and memorize the entire thing. And it had to be all from memory, which I think is the most ridiculous thing if you ask me. But we had done that, and part of the course was be careful because you may become demon possessed. And your salvation is supposed to protect you from going to hell or being of the devil, but you really need to make sure that you are saved and you have Christ in your heart. So, let me turn on my cam because that's kind of weird. So, with that, I know I wrote notes down. For a month, I was literally afraid that the devil was going to come and take over my body, and that salvation would not be good enough. And that's how I really felt. And I was scared. And I think I slept with my bedroom light on because I was afraid to fall asleep. I was. And those are some things that I remember. I had amazing friends. I really did. I went to the Christian school, the Baptist Christian school, And I had a lot of, I just did. And what I learned through the religious classes was, and it was a strong learning of the Bible, very ingrained. Everything we learned biblically was, science and social studies and history. Everything was encapsulated around Christ and God. I swear it always seemed like I memorized half of the Bible because that's what we had to do every week. You had like 5 different verses you needed to memorize. Then on Friday, you had to recite those verses by memory. I mean, everything was a lot of memory. And elementary school, I think, was pretty good. Girls, you couldn't wear pants, and you couldn't wear shorts. You had to make sure that the majority of your skin was covered. Like these collarbones couldn't be exposed. You couldn't wear tank tops, couldn't wear shorts. And the reason you couldn't do that is because men, like a male, may sin, and you don't want him to sin. Because now, mind you, it's a patriarchy, and a male is way above a female. So if you visually tempt the male, you are at fault. Let's just say that. There's so many people who can speak better to this than myself, but my family was, even though my mom taught at that school, she was an amazing teacher. She taught home economics, hence the reason I like to cook. She likes to bake. I mean, everything. She was there all the time. She taught me how to sew because we had sewing class from the time you were in 5th grade all the way to 8th grade. That was part of your schooling journey. And I will say, from in our elementary school, we were learning things and had books that were meant for high schoolers. Hey, Gabby, how are you, my dear? Yes, just keep it real. Your mom really stepped up for you when you were applying to college. She's an amazing mom. She is. And I'm going to tell that because this shows you how it's a little bit culty. Gabby, it's so good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So I graduate from 8th grade, and now I'm going to a school, and I'm comfortable naming it. It was called Maranatha. It was a high school. Actually, it was a Baptist Bible college in Wisconsin that had an academy, a high school version of it. But we were really into the rules. We all of the same rules as the college students had. And now, mind you, Bible, because it's a Baptist Bible college, you very strong religious learning. And it was just one of those. How do I see this? Oh, I want to do this. Queen, would you? Oh, I'm going to have to do it from my phone. Never mind. But would you mind being a mod? That would be awesome if you did. I gotta make sure. Hold on 1 second. All right, let me just do this real quick. That would be great. Hey, Angie uploaded. And Pallets, it's so good to see you. Queen, thank you so much, my dear. So much. Let me just turn my volume down. And then I can just do that. I appreciate you very much. Awesome. Thank you. So now we're moving into, it was like almost like a college prep school, or you would think. Spicy, thanks for all the love, my dear. And Angie, you guys are so sweet. So I went to this academy. Now, mind you, they have very, very strict dress guidelines. And you know how strict this is? Us girls had to wear pantyhose. We couldn't wear, and of course, we wore dresses. And you can kind of identify someone who is maybe an extreme. It's more along the line of, I don't want to say Pentecostal, but we had to wear skirts well below our knees. And not only that, we also, when you sat down, your skirt still had to be below your knees, because you do not want to have a man take a look at you and he gets sexually aroused because your skirt wasn't below your knees or your neck wasn't covered, that you would, you don't want him to get that way, because it's really not him. For him to think that way, you are tempting him. So you are the cause of men to sin. And and on Sundays, okay, mind you, we went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night when I was in high school. You could not miss. We even had to go to church on Wednesday. And mind you, not only did I have Bible class every single day, I also went to what we called chapel. Chapel was every single day. And mind you, chapel, we were integrated in with the college students. And I don't know how many students, but we filled a gymnasium sitting on the bleachers. And then there were some chairs on the ground, but we were not allowed to sit next to a boy. Oh, no. Oh, heck no. You would have to sit, if you had a boyfriend, mind you, all eyes were on the two of you, because you all may sin. So you needed to have somebody there to keep accountability. You really did. And there was a 6-inch rule, 6 inches away from one another. And I don't know how anything could have been so crazy. The boys, they had to wear long sleeve shirts with a tie, dress pants, and dress shoes, and all that other stuff. Wandering spirit, I'm all for freedom of religion until it comes to controlling the opposite sex or controlling what happens within other households, or even worse, removal of certain sex parts. That's just way too much. Oh, absolutely. That's why I don't think, one of the other things is, religion shouldn't even be a part of politics. But don't get me started on that, because it's just all ridiculous. Just, girl, when I was a holy roller, I was in church every damn night, or a leader leading other small groups. It was crazy. Yes. There was so much there, they wanted you to go out into the community and spread the gospel, is the term that was used. But we were out there knocking on doors. But again, you know what? If they are sinners, you shouldn't hang out with them. And when I was Mirandy, welcome in, girl. Welcome in. Hope you got out of that pool okay. I'm so jealous. Very jealous. But you know, it was, how do I say this? God has law, right? In my opinion. Okay, because I do believe in God wholeheartedly. And I love him. He's with me all the time. But men who are, yeah, just like you, I was definitely brainwashed. I was getting beating and cheated on this whole time, but was told by my preacher, submit to him. Yes, WTF, yes. You can't get divorced, even if your husband's abusing you. And if your husband's abusing you, it's because of something you did. It is crazy. It is so crazy how it's all your fault. And as a woman, and men, they're held to ensure that their family is following the word of God. But there's so many man-made rules. Some rules, example, would be, okay, I talked about the pantyhose thing when I think it was Madonna was a big thing, but you weren't allowed to listen to rock music because that had satanic undertones in it. But quiet, we would have our little cassette player when we were in at school or jamming out in our cars and stuff like that. But you really, through the 80s, was like this huge satanic panic where the devil is going to get you. There's satanic undertones in music. And we're not talking like people drumming. That, if anything, allows you to maybe want to dance, even to Christian music, that was bad. Then you're listening to the wrong kind of music. And, you know, my parents, when we were graduating from 8th grade, my mom said if we wanted to go to the public school, we could. But it was our choice. And no, I chose to go to Maranatha Baptist Academy because that's where my friends were. It was just the way of life. And when you were in high school, you know, we were taught how to be good wives. And they'd have a lot of girls' classes about your role in the household. And we couldn't even go. Let me tell you this. They had like a demerit system. If you made it to like 125 demerits, that was like their punishment thing. You couldn't, they'd kick you out. But let me tell you, we learned a quick trick to get how to get demerits erased as well. When there was a special preacher or evangelist that came to speak in our big chapels, they'd always do an altar call. And how to get through everything was to make sure that you publicly confessed your sin and you felt remorseful. I can tell you, high schoolers, my friends, we all knew how to play the system. So they have rules on you so much to choke you, but you're now, because of that, you're learning behaviors like how to be sneaky and all of that craziness. So how did you get out of that? Well, to get like demerits erased or to be able to get put back in good standing, you do this altar call. cry, and then you'd be like me, who would schedule an appointment with the principal, letting him know how my heart was moved and that I'm sorry, I went to the movie theater, even though my dad said I could, because movie theaters are dark and you might be rubbing shoulders with the wrong people, sinners. You can't do that. It was so strict. This is like crazy. You're going to lose your mind. There were college students. I grew up in Watertown, which is a small town. It's between Madison and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And those are very big communities. So there were shopping malls, and the shopping malls all had movie theaters, and they literally would have students from the college to be stationed at each of the movie theaters within, a 50-mile roundabout kind of way. So yeah, it is just keep it real in Queen. It's very culty. And they follow us. And of course, let me tell you, then there's me. So all my friends are average size. Oh, and we're wearing pants out in public. That is just a crime. You might as well lock me up now. Oh, that's a great point, Susie. Learning how to sneak and get around the rules. I've never thought of that. Yep. Exactly. And when everything is taken away from you and you look into the world and these these kids who are your age aren't falling over doing bad things, but then there's Susie. Oh my gosh. I must have been the only little person all over the world. Oh my gosh. Susie, we heard a report, and this is the thing that always come to me because I was obvious. They come to me, Susie, there was a report that you were heading into a movie theater and you and your friends, I saw Kimmy, your sister, these couple of guys. We did have a group of friends, but of course, the college students really didn't know them, but they knew me. And it was assumptive. Well, when I started to become better friends with my little people friends, I would be like, oh, that must have been like my friend Heidi, or oh, that must have been my other friend. And oh my gosh, it was crazy. I could never sneak around and get caught doing a crime. Let me tell you, because everybody knew me. What the hell? A report? Yeah, exactly. But see, when we were in high school, our principal, who was probably 6'5", 300 some odd pounds, he was a football coach and, you know, was the head coach for different sports, even in the college. He's this big dude. But after a while, my dad is like, I am done with this bullshit, is what he would say. That's it. From now on, you need to have him call me. Well, he would call my mom usually when my sister and I did something that was a sin or committed a crime. And a crime could be anything from, it was an old building that we went to school, so the windows were open in the summer, and we would talk to boys that are in the bushes right away. We were in trouble for associating with sinners. Well, after my mom got so, my mom would just be in tears every time he called, and she would be like, you need to call my husband. And I would be, you know, would you please, I know you got to call one of my parents. You can't be bothering my mom at school. You need to talk to my dad. Well, no. And my dad was maybe like 5'10" or 5'9". And they were afraid of my dad because my dad would have had he defended my sister and I all the time. And there was even a point, in the summers, we would try to find beaches in the summers to go listen with our big boom box and a bikini swimming suit with our friends, co-ed friends that we went to school with. And we'd be out there jamming out. Bon Jovi was one of our favorites. And we had so many different favorites in music and, Metallica and all of that. It was crazy. Like, we had to pretend not to be seen because boys and girls aren't even supposed to go swimming together. That's like illegal. You have to have never could men or women go swimming together because that could cause sin. Yes, just keep it real. It's very culty. And wondering, my neighbor is a preacher. He was a great guy, an excellent neighbor. We invited him over to enjoy the jacuzzi while we were out of town. He used it every day. Yeah, that is really awesome. And yes, my dad was our biggest advocate because, when you're a mom, like my mom, she's she was teaching at the Christian school, at the Baptist elementary school. And we wanted to be with our friends who wouldn't. And I've had some really amazing experiences going into when I was in high school. I got to be on the traveling drama team through church. And what they would do is, because when we had a winter break, it was the same winter break that college students have, because there were even kids in our high school that lived in the dorms on campus. So our church had a traveling drama, and you go on the bus, there's like rules. No boys can't sit with girls, and people have like their music. You're reading your Bible, you're reading books, you're having conversation. And then that evening, you be in a city, you go perform at the church, and then spend the night at some strange people's houses who I never met or didn't even know, and had a good time. It's very strange though. Today, would you let your kids go on a bus trip and just say at any old person's house? People who from church would say, "Oh, I'll take two, or I have room for three," and spend the night. Oh, heck no. There would be no way. So in our downtime, when we didn't have skirts on, we had to wear, like for sports, culottes. Every high school basketball team or baseball team or volleyball team, they all had shorts on. Not us. We had culottes, and those culottes covered your knees. Yes, because you could not sin, and shorts were really tight. And mind you, I don't follow that kind of dress code anymore. I'm just saying. And so many rules, so much the Bible says. Well, you know what? When I got older, I looked in the Bible myself. I've done a lot of research, studying. I mean, I've even read the Torah. And the Torah, I have to tell you, if you want to learn about creation, it's beautifully written, beautifully written. And the Torah was written well before the Bible. So it's just beautifully written. But yeah, there's so many rules, man-made rules. Who says that? Um, and interestingly, I decided I did not want to be a pastor's wife as my career choice. when going to college, and it was expected that you were going to go to Maranatha Baptist Bible College, or you could go to Bob Jones, which is in Greenville, South Carolina, Tennessee Temple, which I actually looked at, and Pensacola, that was just, or you could go to Hyles Anderson College, which was run by the creepy Jack Hyles, who, it's just crazy. So you could go to school there. There were just that handful of universities or colleges that were approved. Liberty University, which is why I would have really loved to have gone to school, was way out of hand. I mean, the way that our fundamental Baptists believed that they were way too worldly, Jerry Falwell and Liberty University would have been an amazing school. They have amazing programs, and I wish I could have afforded to go to school there, but unfortunately it was out. So what I decided to do, unbeknownst to myself, but I decided to go to our state university. And one of the things that we had to do was discuss with the principal and the pastor what our plans are after high school. Here's me. I decided that I'm going to go to University of Wisconsin Whitewater and study communications. And the principal, eyes bugged me out. He goes, "That's a school for sinners. Do you realize it's a school for sinners? You're supposed to, be a good Christian woman and not go to a state public university." And unbeknownst to me, because I chose to go to this state university, that my mom lost her job. My mom lost her job because part of the contract she signed says your children will remain in Christian and appropriate, I don't know, Baptist approved school. That even included your adult children and where they went to school. So unbeknownst to me, my sister I had graduated. I went to the University of Wisconsin in Whitewater. And let me tell you, all these people who were sinners were amazing, because I was scared. Am I going to get sucked in? Am I going to die by demon possession? And I went there, and there were people on my dorm floor, on my floor. They were having Bible studies, and they didn't wear skirts and pantyhose and have appropriate hair. And they were just like the average Joe of who I love today. And you're right. Just keep it real. My mom didn't deserve that at all. Yeah, it's a cult to ensure. Right? And you know what? It's funny because I probably really don't remember, but I bet my dad lost his ever loving mind, because if my dad had to go to that school, you could hear my dad screaming and cussing out the principal. You could just tell him, oh my gosh, my dad is going to be here. It's going to be embarrassing. But, at the end of the day, I'm very grateful for him. Oh my gosh. And I learned that you could listen to music, whatever music you wanted, freely. There was nobody to tell you that you couldn't. And, like me, not everybody, but a lot of these high schoolers, mind you, I graduated. I was part of a class of 23 students, and three of the girls that we went to high school with that I graduated with were pregnant within 3 months of graduating from high school. They never taught you anything about sex. Like, that was like, I think they taught the men about sex, but not women. But I'm not sure because we were so kind of segregated for those kind of conversations. They even had the um, reproduction chapter in the biology books cut out. Susie, living life like Footloose. Exactly. Yeah. I went to dances, and you know what? Um, One of the other rules was there could never be any interracial like couples. Like, I was never allowed, if I wanted to even, date someone who was black, or date someone who was Mexican, or marry, because that's like illegal in fundamental Baptist organizations. And when I was in college, I didn't have to be afraid of anybody of a different color than myself. And amazing friends. And oops, oh my gosh, because these people who are not following God are going to burn and go to hell. Burn and go to hell. So, being gay, I didn't even know what being gay was. I would be like, oh, that's gay. But I really didn't know what that meant. But I did know, because I heard it, that don't be friends with people who are gay, because you're going to get that disease from them and you're going to go into hell. So, no same sex attraction at all. And literally, you'd be shunned, you'd be excommunicated. And I had a really good friend at college, very good friend, and he was an amazing man. And I had him speak at a program that I put together, because I started my own little like organization called COW. And COW stood for Celebrating Our World. And yes, that was around the time about Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. So, and that's kind of how we came up with it, cows, because when you think of Wisconsin, you think about cows. And so I was a part of that organization, Celebrating Our World and celebrating individual differences. And my friend Daniel was speaking, and he came out and he said, was saying all these great things about himself and people and stuff. And he goes, but I have to tell you something, I'm gay. And I'm like, what? You're gay. You're my friend. I hug you. I mean, I loved him, not like as a boyfriend, but you know what I mean? It's a friend that I truly loved. He goes, 2 minutes later, he goes, what happened to who I was before you found out I was gay? I didn't change. I just told you something. And that like enlightened my world, that I could love other people. And Wandering Scorpio, I knew a guy going through a divorce. He said, if she divorces, then the church won't allow her to stay. Exactly. Nope. Because it's the woman's fault. At this point, she's okay with that. I told him, see, that is so true. Just keep it real. I never understood the problem with dating someone with a different skin color. I'll never understand that ever. We live who we love, period. Exactly. So, in reality, that meant, well, what about me? Am I only supposed to date little people with the same color skin, or should I date average sized people? But what if the only Christians are tall and a little person short? How does that all work? Hey, Barbarian's wife, how are you, my dear? You're right. And I don't understand, and I never did. But it took me living, leaving that cult like environment. And within the first, semester, going to myself, but God loves everyone. They used to preach this: love one another, love one another. But in the Baptist culture, the independent and fundamentalist Baptist culture, it was love one another, but what? And I'm supposed to love all these people, and I did. I learned that it was safe to love other people who were different from me. Hey, Super Snoops. It's good to see you. Well, I hope you have a great evening at work. Thanks for stopping in. Just keep it real. I have a gay son and he loves God, and that's his business, not mine. He's my child. I'll defend him till the day I die. Absolutely. Me too. Me too. And this is so, powerful. And I know there's people out there who aren't religious and who aren't spiritual, but in my faith, I'm spiritual. I'm not in organized religion anymore, but I have my own relationship with God. And it's true. Love one another. God didn't say love one another, but, or it's love everybody. And I remember, this is funny. This happened 3 years ago. When Steve and I had started to date. Him and I were having a conversation, and he was talking about how he loves God. Christ is in his heart. He's a believer. And I looked at him and I'm like, what? And he's like, Susie, I'm a Christian. And I said the same thing, and me too. And I said, how do you get to be a Christian? You're Catholic. First time. But see, that's what was ingrained in my brain all through elementary school and through high school. Catholics are not Christians. They are sinners. They are going to go to hell because they don't believe like we do. Isn't that horrible? That it took me 50 years later to realize that. And I went to my mom and I'm like, Mom, you're going to be super excited. And she's like, what? I said to her, I said, Steve's a Christian and he's Catholic. And my mom goes, oh, yeah, I have lots of friends who are Christians and believe in God, and God is in their heart and in their soul. And she's like, yeah, that's normal. I said, well, that's what I wasn't taught. And she's like, what are you talking about? And of course, I tell her this story, and she's like, nope, they're Christians too. And so you never know. And in my life, I think that a lot of this is all about how we're raised. Yes, we have a member in our community, yes, who's Jewish. Beautiful Samantha. And just because she doesn't believe how I do, her beliefs are hers. Absolutely. And you know what? She loves God. She really does. And there's so many religions out there that, Muslims love God. There's so many different faiths that love God. How they practice is their own, and how they practice. And it breaks my heart if I would still be in this, that if my children ever had that same mentality. And I sent my kids to public school. There was no way I was going to send my kids to private school. Absolutely not. I didn't want them all crazy. Yep. I just keep it real. And I love Samantha. I do too. She is a sweet, sweet soul. She really is. And she's a wonderful human. And that's it. Exactly. But I do have to tell you a cute little story about all of this. Palettes is saying, hey, Snoops. But we thought it would be fun to send our kids, my sister and I, when our kids were older, to a summer Bible camp, because we did that in the summers, when we were growing up, or we would spend a week at camp during the school year because the whole school would go to camp. And we always loved it and had a really good time. And we thought it would be a really good thing for our children. And I agreed. And the gentleman who ran the camp and still runs it, his name was Pastor Randy. He was our youth pastor. And I called and my sister called. And we said, we need to better understand about the camp, because we're looking through the rules. No cell phones, no shorts, and all those things. And back then, that would have been appropriate. But for our children, they didn't want to go to camp that they couldn't wear shorts and they couldn't have a cell phone. And my sister and I were very concerned with our children, that our children had to have a cell phone with them, because if they didn't, what if something bad happens? Because bad things happen, and we wanted them. But that was it. The dress code for the Bible camp was too strict for our children, and they couldn't ultimately have cell phones. Our kids, we looked at their shorts that they had to see if they were long enough to come to the knee, and they weren't. So we didn't wind up sending our kids to camp. But I loved Bible camp. Loved it. Yeah, you had a Bible course in the morning, and then we had one in the evening, and that's usually where they do altar calls. Our altar calls are when the person who's preaching the Bible moves your heart, and you walk to the front and you confess your sin. Okay. Now, by doing that, you also get elevated up, because people who didn't do that were always at the bottom. So if you wanted to be in the good, you move up to the next step. That means that the adults looked at you as a positive person. You're making great change. They are such a good Christian. But we did that just to survive in our way of surviving. I know my mom is probably going, oh my gosh, Susie, don't tell them what you think. No, because there are certain things that I think about people. And I have a friend, when I was in high school, some of my friends' parents said, oh, and I'm pretty sure, I'll just say his first name, we want you to meet this guy, Jay. He's little like you are. And he's cute. So when we went on our winter tour of travel, we went to Tennessee Temple University. and we performed at a church nearby that was Tennessee Temple approved or Maranatha Baptist Bible College approved. And I met Jay. And wow, he was cute. He looked like Don Johnson, with the white pants and the bright turquoise shirt. And then he had that cute little, that whole preppy thing going with his sweater around his neck and with a loose knot. He was just adorable. And he was just a really nice guy. And he went to school there, and his mom was also a teacher there. And we had met and we kept in touch for a little bit, but then we just lost touch with each other. And when Facebook started in 2009, I don't know. One day I was thinking about him. He had a really easy name to remember. I put it in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was so happy for him. He was gay and he was married. And oh my gosh, his life was so fun. And him and I are still friends. And I was so excited because you could see like his pain. Like there was something that was very painful that I even noticed back then. And it was like kind of a secret. But it was kind of a secret because he didn't tell anybody what he was thinking and how his thoughts and his feelings were trapped in his body because he wasn't a didn't need to have a voice to tell how he really felt, because he would have been banished and all of these horrible things. And that takes a lot out of a person. Just keep it real. The last time I walked into a church was shortly after I got a sext from your preacher. Ooh, I would too. I'd leave immediately, right away. Absolutely. I probably haven't been to church in, a formal. If I do go to church, it's a non-denominational church. Does it uplift my spirits? Yes. But there's still some of those things that I don't agree with, on your ratings of your spirituality and things like that. But Randy, how are you, Muhammad B? Cute. Oh, that must be Barbarian's wife you're talking about, Mirandy. But you think about it, and yeah, I do. I have a relationship with God. I read the Bible. I, like I've said before, the creation story in the Torah is so beautifully written, so beautiful. And you can see Judaism is a beautiful faith. And there's a lot of beautiful faiths. There really is. But it's all about your relationship with God. Mirandy does these morning prayers with Mirandy, and I love it. I really do. It's so uplifting. It's very spiritual. It's, she really cares. And to see that many people that go in there, sure, chatting and everything, but the first part of her entire life is about all the prayers and praying for one another and loving on one another. And yeah, Mirandy, you do a fantastic job. I love you, and I love being part of a membership, um, in your being a member to your memberships. It's so much fun. It's so uplifting. We kind of get sucked sometimes into the drama, and it gives us head pain or it gives us gut pain of what some of these people here in the YouTube community are doing. And it's destructive. But I can tell you my whole goal of even being a part of this um, channel, um, having this, is to be uplifting. And it doesn't have to be spiritually uplifting, it can be mentally, it could be soulful, and however people believe. And it's so true. Mirandy is such a genuine and beautiful soul. And just keep it real. Queen, I love you. You know why. Yes. And I'm so excited to get to know each and every one of you better, because you are positive people and you're so kind. And I've never felt anything but love with this in this community, except, Rapper. Oh my gosh. He is not, I'm not a fan, but he needs a lot of prayers. He needs to change his life. Palettes, you are so funny. I sometimes sleep through her morning prayer, but I do try to be there when I can. It sounds like when I was growing up, you weren't allowed to fall asleep in church. Oh, hell no. And that's another, lots of church. Church, church, church. You carried your Bible everywhere you went. I haven't been going to church since my pastor died, and that has been 20 years ago. But I believe in God, and that's why I watch Mirandy in the morning so I can have my church time. Yep. My dad didn't go to church. His church was sitting in his recliner relaxing on a Sunday. And then when we get home from church, we could watch Ma and Pa Kettle. Oh my gosh, I love that show, that black and white show. I love that. Ma and Pa Kettle. I haven't said that in years. But I put my link out there if anybody wants to pop up and talk about it. But I will tell you, oh, when we were in high school, we got really sneaky. On Sunday night, all of the teenagers sat in what they called the overflow area. And we all decided, here's what the deal is. Our goal was, we tell our parents, because we could drive, right? We will meet them by the buses um, after church. Okay, great. We'd be in church, they'd say the first prayer, and we'd all leave. Leave. The pastor couldn't see us. We always made sure all the Maranatha people who could report us would be there. No, pallets, I won't do that. Oh, right. Did somebody try hopping up here? I couldn't see it. Looked like it. Queen, I sleep through most of Randy's mornings because it's only 6 or 7:30 here, and if I'm not at work, I'm sleeping. I know sometimes she's a little early. How cute. Hey, Fancy, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Pallets, you must be talking. Please don't boot me, just keep it real. I'll tape my eyes open, okay? I know. And yes, I know I shouldn't, but I cuss like a sailor except for the GD or JC. Exactly. Exactly. Those are two words, or actually three words, that I don't say. I hate, okay, so it irritates me when people are like, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, do you really have to say that? We don't, or gosh darn it all, or gosh darn it all. And yeah, when people say that, I'm like, oh, do you really? And I do. I say it like I see it. I really do. I say it the way I see it, and there's no um way around that. But yes, I do say it. And do I love my friends that I went to high school with, absolutely. Susie, what do you think about the Spanish Inquisitions of Knights of the Templar? Um, I would, I know what you mean about the Knights of Templar because that has a lot to do with people like who are Masons, if I'm not mistaken. And I will have to refresh my memory about that, but I would love to talk about that. But oh, yeah, Masons were bad people. My cousins, my female cousins on my mom's side, were involved with Job's Daughters, which was also a my one of my closest cousins. She always like, yep, my mom was in a cult like Job's Daughters because it was kind of culty. But I will. Hey, hello, my
Hey,
so good to see you. It's
how are
I'm
you?
gonna good. Okay, I gotta write that down because I'm gonna read about that again. Haven't thought about that for a really long time. The Spanish Inquisition at Knights Templar. It's the forcing of culture to change belief and religious beliefs. I'll have to look at that. But I do know the Knights Templar is like a dark. I mean, Masons are one thing, but I think the Knights Templar maybe is kind of dark. But I'll have to look that up. So you were a Bible banger.
I was.
Yep, me too. So do you
And go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, oh, I want to hear a story that you have, an experience.
Well, I was not really raised. Um, I mean, my mother was a Christian, you know,
Uh-huh.
but she she didn't take me to church. Like we were never in church when I was growing up.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, there's a lot of facets to my story, but one was I was going to do everything um, opposite to what my mother did raising me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, you know, of this belief I got to raise my kids in church. I got to raise my kids in church. Like, that's all I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because, you know, I had a very
Queen, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for stopping in.
bye, Queen. I love you.
And Gabi says, bye, Queen.
She's
So
such a good girl.
yeah, she's so sweet. So you wanted to raise your children differently than what you were raised, have more of
Yeah.
a fundamental,
Well,
not necessarily fundamental, but a good Christian.
church upbringing. Yeah.
Right, right, right.
So that's what I did. And, we were, oh, this is traumatic when I look back on it. But we were there every time the doors were open,
Right? I understand.
which, which was, Sunday morning, Sunday night. We did Awanas. I know you know what that
Yes,
is. If
I
you're
did that.
Baptist, yep, if you're Baptist, you know what Awanas is.
I loved
Um,
Awanas.
I was an Awana leader, and I certainly loved. It was more about teaching children Bible verses, right?
Yes. Yep. And the more
And I enjoyed
verses, the
that.
more badges you got on your little thing.
And I enjoyed that because we weren't in Awanas, we weren't really, you know, what's the word? Banging the Bible on their heads,
Right. Uh-huh.
and beating them into submission. It wasn't like that. It was just, okay, these are the core verses. And I was fine with that. And then I was a leader in Celebrate Recovery,
Uh-huh.
which is very similar to AA, but
Yes.
it's Christian based. Um,
Mhm.
I was not an alcoholic. I was not a drug addict, but my church recruited me and my now ex-husband to be leaders of this group. Okay. So
Mhm.
Sunday morning, I was a Sunday school teacher. I was in church. I was a children's church leader. I was in Awanas. I was in church every Sunday night for a Bible study. I was in Celebrate Recovery, usually leading 2 or 3 nights a week.
Mhm.
Um, and when I wasn't in the actual church building, I was leading small groups.
Mhm.
Like I think y'all are getting the picture. It was my entire existence.
Right.
Okay.
I completely understand. Yeah.
But in the meantime, and also you have to understand, I lived in a very small town in Georgia. Um, Behind the scenes, I was getting beaten by my husband, um, severely abused in every way you can imagine. And I don't really want to talk about that because um, it's just not good for me to talk about it.
Right.
But everything you can imagine in the background, these things were happening to me, right?
Exactly.
And in the public and in church, I was supposed to show something different than my reality,
Right.
right? So I did that. I did it for a good probably 16, 17 long years. And after 23 years of marriage, when I got stronger and finally chose um, to announce to my little small town that I was pursuing a divorce, the whole town was in shock, right?
Right.
Because I covered up so much, and it was encouraged by my church family when they should have been encouraging me to get out of the situation that I was in.
Right.
And it was very traumatic. I'll never, ever um, be in organized religion again in my life.
Right. Myself
Um,
included in that.
it's, and I'm not knocking anyone that goes to church at all.
Mhm.
I understand that there are good churches out there and there are good preachers out there. Like, I get it. I'm just saying, in my experience, I learned that nothing else matters except my personal relationship with God. Nothing else matters. Because when I was in organized religion, right, for years,
Right.
I was taught to cover shit up, bad shit.
Right. Because you were the cause of that in organized religion.
Right?
You
Yeah,
weren't you weren't being a good enough wife. You weren't being
right.
the perfect Christian woman and say, yeah, it's my
But
fault.
I mean, I kind of was, but you know, my preacher, the deacons, they were all um telling me, stuff it down, um keep up that mask. Like, people are watching you because you're a leader in this church and you're this and you're that. And I'm like, but it's not the truth.
Right.
It's not the truth. It was terrible. So that's my story.
Wow. But see, that's what. Oh, hold on. Let me turn on my camera again. Um, but that's the way that it was. And I still remember one of these things that reminds me is, when we went to church all the time the doors were open, we had to. It was a requirement, especially once I was in high school. And my parents were not fundamental. My parents, outside of that environment, let me and my sister be who we wanted to be. And a lot of people had done that. But something that just breaks my heart when you look back at it, that if there was a woman, now mind you, they encouraged you to invite people to come to church, right? And get to know God. But
Yeah.
let me tell you, when a woman, especially a woman or a man, came in and they were not dressed appropriately, and I'm talking like if a woman were to come in with pants on, or a man was to come in with a t-shirt and jeans on, everybody looked at them like they were leprosy. Like, oh my, oh, they're not wearing, she's not wearing a dress. Oh my gosh, can't look at them. And it blew away my mind because, again, like the Bible says, love one another, not love one another, but it doesn't say
Yeah.
that. And I
That's right.
truly believe when God said, love one another as I have loved you, that means loving people. You may not love what people do, but
Right.
you give them, you know, you befriend them. Just because somebody is, let's say, doing meth, I can still love that person, but not
Yeah.
love the behavior of what they do. And it's still my responsibility to pray for those people.
Sure.
And you know what? Sometimes I'm not very good at that. I fail at sometimes loving others because it's a very hard job and it's
It
very
is hard.
tough. But you know what? As you get older and you become friends with people, a friend of mine sent me a text just a few minutes ago. Hey, beautiful, I'm watching you on YouTube right now. You go tell it like you're doing an amazing job with all the details we lived through.
Oh,
And
see?
see,
So if
mhm,
anything, you have reached one person today, right?
and we grew up
Because
together.
right, she reached out and texted you because she felt the same way you did.
Mhm.
And the difference is you're speaking out on it and she appreciates that. That is
Yeah.
so sweet.
And she's a sweet friend. She lives in Las Vegas. I think the last time when she was in town, we got together, but like she was a couple of years older than I was, but we were still friends. We still had, it was a small high school, but we were still good. A lot of us became friends because her, like myself, I mean, we would do things that weren't of the norm, if you know what I mean. Wandering Scorpio says, I try not to be anti religion, but when you constantly hear stories such as Just Keep It Reals, where are the positive stories? I love that Just Keep It Real has found her own way and in a wonderful marriage with Mr. Just Keep It Real. Yep.
Well, I can give you a positive outcome wandering
Mhm.
from my own experience is I did choose to, uh-oh, did she kick
No, I'm
herself?
here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
Wandering, I did choose to raise my children in church. And sadly, my children did see um, a lot of what was going on at home, but they are all now adults and they are good people. They
Mhm.
all they all love God. So even though, you know, the six of us, including my ex-husband, went through what we went through, we at least have four beautiful children that are very good people. And I do believe um, that me and him, because he was heavily involved too in our church, we did build that baseline for them. So I would probably do it all over again the
Mhm.
same way because they are wonderful, wonderful human beings. They are. So
Yes,
there
they are.
there's
You did a great job.
there's there's some positives out of the shit I went through. There
Right.
are.
Oh, definitely. And the life that we led, how to be so curious that they would put you in a box. I'll call
Yeah.
it like in a box. And you didn't know
Yeah.
what was going on in the outside world because you were so, it was so ingrained in your head. And I've watched people who
Yeah.
that went to high school that graduated with me whose lives are just in a really bad place because they weren't given the tools to
Yeah.
navigate the world. That's how ingrained they were. And when you had the opportunity to experience the world, it was never like it was taught to you.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I mean, I did my best, or, you know, what I
yeah,
thought was my best in the moment. Looking back on it, I made, oh my gosh, so many mistakes. But at the end of the day, again, my children do love God. And if that's all I ever gave them, I'm proud of that.
right. And I feel that
Which I
way.
did. I did give them more, but I'm just saying, at the very least, my mother did not really expose me to God growing up.
Right.
So I feel like I at least gave them that. The other shit, no. They shouldn't have gone through everything that they went through, and I will forever feel guilty about that. And that's just my cross to bear,
Right.
you know.
But it's hard when you have an environment like a cult that drills into your brain and you're sucked in because it's all
Yeah.
about being a good Christian. And how is it a religion can state
Mm-hmm.
what a good Christian means or what it is? Even, like I've gone to non denominational, but there's still in my brain when I've gone to
Yep.
those churches, that's still like you see that culty behavior.
Yep.
And it scares me and I get tired and I'm like, nope, we can't do this. And would Steve and I love to find a good church? Yes, we would.
I
We would.
would too, but it's
Yeah.
just scary because we
Hmm.
have, I think we have PTSD from it, you
Yes.
know?
And like my
And
sister has never stepped one foot in church since the day we left. And when my mom lost her job, and we were kicked out of the church because of,
wondering, they are not perfect. Come on, I'm not saying that. They are not, and Susie can tell you they're not. They drive me crazy on on the daily. But
it. But they're good
they're,
humans.
yes, they're decent humans. Um they're a lot like me. They got their mama's attitude. Um kind of like the do unto others kind of
Right.
attitude.
Uh-huh.
But they are decent people. They
Mhm.
don't set out to hurt people, but they do defend themselves, and um, they love their mama, and that's all I care about. That's it.
Yeah. Definitely. That really is all that we can do. We can give them the tools to be good adults. And sometimes it's not always good because they, like ourselves, don't always make the right choices. I don't make the right choices all the time.
Right, exactly. But they do make, I got that one child.
Needy needs her mama, just like me.
Right.
Yep, I have one of those too. And I
She's
love them.
she's at work. She's at work, and this girl has called me 3 times today asking for advice. So, um, I kinda take that as a compliment, you
Right.
know?
Mhm.
And she doesn't always listen to my advice, but if she's turning to me, of all people, for advice, because I'm telling y'all, I'm not perfect, but she sees something in her mother, and I'm gonna always answer those phone calls. Um, Again, they are not perfect. I am not perfect, but they're
Mhm.
good humans. That's it.
Yeah. And that's all that matters. I didn't raise my children really in church. Yes, we would go for a period of time to church and then we wouldn't. And then, because of course you see something that comes from your background and you're like, oh no, that's getting a little too where I don't want to be. And then we'd go to church again for a while. And as
Yeah.
my kids have gotten older, Olivia is really into learning about the Bible and she reads books and does her own little Bible studies. She likes to do that. Caden, he likes history. So if you can put
Mm-hmm.
the Bible and history all in one lump sum. He likes to, study that kind of thing. So I'm very open about my faith because I do have a strong faith in God and a great relationship with Him, but it's my relationship. It's not through
Right.
religion as the
Right.
because there's so much, you saw even on TV the Duggar clan, and it's so nice to see their children, their girls, growing up into being their own individuals.
Right.
And it's hard. I mean, it does. It gives you PTSD. And even though, like, I wasn't beaten or anything like that, it's all on the mind control, is
Yeah.
still hurts you to this day. And it's unfortunate. But I was blessed to have the background that I did have, which has helped create a foundation for myself of who I am today.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of what I was trying to say about my kids. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I, on one hand, I'm like, why did I drag them to church every day of their life, 7 days a week? Like, looking back on it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But at the same time, I now realize, even though we went through everything that we went through that was not so good,
Right.
at least they're good humans today.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the least I ever did as their mother, I'm okay with it.
Exactly. And you've done a great job. Your children are successful and they're good people. And I look at it that way too with my kids. That
Yeah.
And one of the things people often say a lot is, Susie, remember, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And that's not true. That's not a true statement at all.
I hate that saying. I hate it.
And, it's not true, just in general,
Right.
you know? So that's why I hate that statement so much. And I look at living life with Maggie, she's a blessing. What happened to her was unacceptable. But let
Right.
me tell you, you know, if God would have given her to somebody else for whatever reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
She'd still be that same blessing. She isn't something you can't handle. But yeah, God does give you things in life that you can't handle. He doesn't give you things that you can handle. That's just my own opinion. I think that's a horrible statement that people say. And
Yeah. It drives me nuts.
it does. And it's wrong. It's very negative. Wandering spirit. I used to thank my wife all the time for simply showing up to our marriage every day, not by any outside guidelines, but instead by her own choices. Absolutely. Because she wanted to do that.
Yeah. She wanted to. That's right.
Yeah. People laugh and, oh, you have to make the boys dinner. Well, it's the least I can do for them even to be in my life. I like to cook. I want to make them happy. I need to ensure I feel that's not by their guideline,
It's
by
yours. Yes. I
but
know
it's
that. I
mine.
know that.
My choice or my choice to go on a girls' night with Steve. You know, because
Yeah.
I choose to bring him with me. He loves girls' nights anyway, so why not? I'm sure just like Mr. Just Keep It Real. But it took me a long time. Um, 50, I don't know how old was I think I was 51 when Steve and I started dating. But I've never been so happy and in a relationship with another human. Like, I love being there for him, just like Wandering Scorpio had said. You're That's because she loved you so much. And
Right.
just like you are with Mr. Just Keep It Real. Yeah, I mean, we squabble or disagree on things, but we love our partner so much.
Right.
Can't even
Right.
envision life without him.
No.
Just like my kids, I can't imagine life without my children.
So somebody just commented on my post where I was talking about my health issues,
Uh-huh.
and they said that I finally got my karma. Hmm.
Well,
Wonder who that was.
that is horrible thing to say.
I just blocked them. Like,
Good. That's sad to wish ill upon
yeah,
someone. How horrible is that?
we all know who it was, but anyway, that's another story.
Well, that was a great ending to a great live. We got our karma, right?
Hey y'all, that block button, it's a good thing. Use it.
It's real for sure. But, anyways, I appreciate all of you being here and just keep it real. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
telling your story. I loved it.
All
And
right, I will talk to you soon, and I love you.
I love you too. And
All right,
everybody,
bye.
hi. I hope everybody has an amazing evening. And thanks for being here. Thanks for all your support. And like I say, if you ever have a need, and you can email me at spicylittleprincess@gmail.com. If you have any questions, it's the perfect place to reach out to me, because I don't mind answering questions. I am like literally an open book. I really am. About myself, that is. But yeah, definitely. And I know this is something that who would have thunk, right? But, anyways, you all have a fantastic evening, and Wandering Scorpio, thank you again for being here. You make my heart happy. And Palettes, I'm so glad you were here and still here. And I know Fancy was here, and all of my friends, thank you so much. And enjoy your evening. Have a good night.